Amani, a slender woman with piercing gray eyes that seemed to hold the weight of the world, lived on the outskirts of the village of Marangi. She was revered and feared as the village seer, a role bestowed upon her by the spirits who visited her dreams since she was a child. Her hut was adorned with strings of beads, feathers, and symbols of protection, a sanctuary for those seeking wisdom and solace. Yet despite her importance, Amani was profoundly lonely. People sought her guidance, but kept their distance, wary of the power she wielded. One fateful night, as the moon hung low and full, Amani sat by the fire, gazing into its flickering flames. Her trance was broken by a sudden vision. A man standing at the edge of a dark forest, his face illuminated by the faint glow of the moonlight. Her heart quickened as the vision unfolded, showing her holding his hand before the image shifted abruptly to betrayal and chaos. She awoke with a start, her heart pounding. The spirits had spoken, and the weight of their message left her breathless. Who was this man, and what did her betrayal mean for her people? The following morning, Amani sought clarity from the spirits. Sitting cross-legged in the village shrine, she burned sacred herbs and chanted softly, seeking their guidance. The air grew heavy, and the voice of the spirit spoke in whispers, weaving a prophecy that chilled her to her core. A stranger will come. You will love him, but your love will betray him. Only then can your people be saved. Her heart sank. Love had never been part of Amani's life. Her role as a seer demanded solitude, and she had long accepted her fate. Yet, the prophecy was clear, and its implications were dire. She returned to her heart troubled. Her mind was clouded with questions she could not answer. Who was this stranger? How would her love betray him? And most importantly, what would the cost be for her people? The prophecy cast a long shadow over her, one she could not escape. Days turned into weeks, and Amani couldn't shake the unease brought by the prophecy. Her visions became more frequent, each more vivid than the last. Then one afternoon, as the sun bathed the village in golden light, a commotion stirred near the gates. A man, tall and rugged, with an aura of mystery, stood before the village elders. His name was Malik, and he sought refuge after escaping bandits who had raided his caravan. Amani's breath caught as she approached the gathering. He was the man from her vision, the stranger whose presence would change everything. Their eyes met briefly, and she felt an inexplicable pull toward him. The elders, impressed by his tale of survival and his respectful demeanor, granted him shelter. He was to stay in the village until he could rebuild his strength and continue his journey. Amani watched him from a distance, her heart heavy with conflicting emotions. She knew this was only the beginning. Amani avoided Malik for days, wary of the prophecy and the feelings his presence stirred within her. But fate had other plans. While gathering herbs near the riverbank, she found Malik tending to a wounded bird, his hands gentle and deliberate. Surprised by his kindness, she hesitated before speaking. "You have a way with healing," she said softly. He looked up, his deep brown eyes meeting hers. "Sometimes, even the smallest creatures need help," he replied with a smile that made her chest tighten. They spoke for hours, sharing stories of their lives. Malik's journey had been fraught with loss, but he carried himself with strength and determination. Amani found herself drawn to his resilience, and for the first time in years, she felt a connection that went beyond her role as a seer. Yet as they parted ways, the prophecy lingered in her mind, a constant reminder of the shadow looming over their bond. The annual Festival of Unity brought the village together in celebration, a time to honor their ancestors and renew their bonds. Amani usually kept to the edges of the festivities, but this year was different. Malik, now well integrated into the community, was the center of attention, his charm and wit captivating the villagers. He encouraged Amani to join the dances, pulling her into the throng with a playful grin. For a moment, she allowed herself to forget the prophecy. They danced under the stars, their laughter blending with the music of drums and flutes. Malik's hand lingered on hers as the night wore on, and Amani felt a warmth she hadn't known was possible. But as the celebration ended and the villagers returned to their homes, the weight of the prophecy came crashing down on her. She realized that the closer she grew to Malik, the more inevitable her betrayal seemed. Yet she couldn't stop herself from falling for him, even as her heart warned her of the storm ahead. In the days following the festival, Amani and Malik grew closer, their bond deepening with each passing moment. Malik's natural curiosity drew him to Amani's world, and he often visited her hut, asking questions about the spirits and her role as a seer. Though hesitant at first, Amani found herself opening up, sharing the stories of her visions and the burdens they carried. Malik listened with genuine interest, his gaze filled with admiration and respect. One evening, as they sat by the fire outside her hut, Malik spoke of his plans to rebuild his caravan and continue his trade routes. Amani's heart sank at the thought of him leaving, but she masked her feelings with a smile. "Your journey sounds like one of great purpose," she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. Malik studied her for a moment before responding. "I found purpose here as well, Amani. Perhaps my path isn't as fixed as I thought." His words ignited a flicker of hope in her heart, but the shadow of the prophecy loomed large, reminding her that their connection was destined for betrayal. Amani's dreams turned darker as her bond with Malik deepened. One night, she was thrust into a vision so vivid it left her trembling. She saw herself standing on a cliff, her hands outstretched toward Malik, who stood below, his face twisted in anguish. Behind her, the spirits whispered in unison, "The choice must be made." When she awoke, sweat drenched her brow and her heart raced. The prophecy's meaning was becoming clearer, but she refused to accept it. How could she betray someone who had brought light into her lonely existence? The spirits offered no answers, their voices silent despite her pleas. Amani resolved to keep the vision to herself, hoping against hope that her love for Malik could change the course of destiny. The village elders, once welcoming of Malik, began to grow wary of his presence. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some said he was a spy. Others claimed his arrival had angered the spirits. Amani tried to quell the rising tension, reassuring the elders that Malik's intentions were honorable. But their skepticism persisted, fueled by unexplained misfortunes that had befallen the village since his arrival. One afternoon, Malik confronted Amani, his frustration evident. "Why do they mistrust me? I've done nothing but show loyalty to this village." Amani hesitated, torn between her loyalty to her people and her feelings for him. "Sometimes the unfamiliar breeds fear," she replied carefully. Malik's eyes searched hers, seeking answers she couldn't give. The seeds of doubt had been sown, and Amani feared they would soon grow into something she couldn't control. Amani struggled to balance her love for Malik, and her duty to her people intensified. She began to notice the villagers' suspicious glances and overheard their hushed conversations. The pressure mounted when the village chief summoned her to the council. "The spirits have been silent since his arrival," the chief said, his tone accusatory. "You must seek their guidance and ensure the village's safety." Amani knew the truth, that the spirits had already spoken, and their silence was not a sign of displeasure, but a test of her resolve. Yet she couldn't bring herself to reveal the prophecy. She nodded in agreement, promising to consult the spirits. That night, as she prepared for the ritual, Malik appeared at her door, his face etched with worry. "I feel like I'm being watched," he admitted. "Do you trust me, Amani?" Her heart ached as she replied, "With all that I am." But deep down, she knew trust alone would not be enough to save them. During her ritual, The spirits returned, their voices more urgent than ever. The time is near, Amani. Prepare to choose. Their words left her shaken, but they also brought clarity. The betrayal foretold in the prophecy was not one of malice, but necessity, a sacrifice for the greater good. Amani wept, torn between her love for Malik and her duty to her people. The following morning, she sought out Malik, finding him by the river where they had first met. He greeted her with a smile, but it faltered when he saw her tear-streaked face. "What's wrong?" he asked, his voice laced with concern. Amani hesitated, then said, "There's something you must know, but not yet. When the time comes, I need you to trust me." Malik nodded, though confusion clouded his features. Amani walked away, knowing that their bond, as strong as it was, would soon be tested in ways neither of them could foresee. The village grew increasingly divided over Malik's presence. Some villagers, swayed by Malik's kindness and helpfulness, defended him, but others, fueled by fear and superstition, demanded his expulsion. Tensions reached a boiling point when a sudden storm destroyed part of the village's crops, an event many blamed on Malik. The village elders convened a meeting, summoning Amani to seek the spirit's guidance. Amani stood before the council, her heart heavy with the weight of the prophecy. "The spirits have spoken," she said, choosing her words carefully. "Malik is not our enemy, but his presence here is tied to greater events yet to unfold." Her cryptic response only deepened the villagers' unease. Malik, who stood outside the council hut, overheard their accusations. For the first time, doubt crept into his heart. Was Amani hiding something from him? The seeds of distrust began to grow between them, though neither dared to confront it yet. Malik's growing unease was evident. He spent more time alone, venturing into the forest to escape the suspicious stares of the villagers. Amani too grew more withdrawn, consumed by the prophecy and the looming choice she would have to make. Despite their shared silence, their paths crossed one evening by the river. "You're avoiding me," Malik said, his tone gentle but firm. Amani hesitated, then shook her head. "I'm trying to protect you." Her words, though sincere, only deepened his confusion. "From what?" he pressed. Amani looked away, unable to answer. The tension between them hung heavy in the air, but Malik reached out, his hand brushing hers. "Whatever it is, I can handle it. Just trust me." Amani nodded, but in her heart, she knew trust alone couldn't change the course of destiny. The villagers' suspicion turned into action when a group of men approached Malik one night, demanding he leave. Malik, though outnumbered, stood his ground. "I have done nothing to harm you," he said, his voice calm but firm. The confrontation escalated until Amani appeared, her presence silencing the mob. "Enough," she commanded, her voice carrying the authority of her role as a seer. The men reluctantly dispersed, but their anger simmered beneath the surface. Malik turned to Amani, his gratitude evident. "You saved me," he said, but Amani's heart sank, knowing she had only delayed the inevitable. That night, she had another vision. Malik's betrayal would not come from the villagers, but from her own hand. The realization left her shaken, and for the first time, she questioned whether she could fulfill the prophecy without destroying herself in the process. Determined to understand the prophecy's true meaning, Amani sought the guidance of an elder seer who lived in isolation on the mountain. The journey was treacherous, but Amani pressed on, driven by desperation. The elder, a wizened woman with eyes clouded by age but sharp with wisdom, listened to Amani's tale in silence. "The prophecy is clear," the elder said finally. "Your love for Malik will lead to his betrayal, but betrayal does not always mean destruction. Sometimes it is the path to salvation." Amani's mind raced as she tried to decipher the cryptic words. "How can I betray someone I love?" she asked. The elder smiled faintly. "The question is not how, but why. When the time comes, you will understand. Amani returned to the village with more questions than answers, but a sliver of hope began to form in her heart. The spirits' voices grew louder and more insistent, warning Amani that the time for the prophecy to unfold was near. She tried to distance herself from Malik, hoping to spare him from the pain she knew was coming. But Malik refused to let her go. "You're pushing me away," he said one night, confronting her in the quiet of her heart. "Why?" Tears filled Amani's eyes as she struggled to find the words. "Because I'm afraid," she admitted. "Afraid of what I might do." Malik cupped her face in his hands, his voice steady. "I don't care about prophecies or spirits. I care about you. Whatever happens, we'll face it together." Amani wanted to believe him, but the spirit's warning echoed in her mind. As Malik held her close, she realized that the moment of choice was fast approaching, and the love they shared might not be enough to save them both. One evening, Malik ventured deep into the forest, his thoughts clouded by confusion and frustration. The whispers of the villagers, the tension in Amani's eyes, and the weight of the unknown were becoming too much to bear. As he walked, the forest grew eerily quiet. A chill ran down his spine, and he suddenly felt as though he was not alone. From the shadows emerged a shimmering figure, translucent yet vibrant. Malik froze, his heart pounding. The figure spoke in a voice that seemed to echo from within his own mind. "You are walking a path of destiny, one intertwined with great love and great pain. Trust in the Seer, for her heart is true, but be wary of what lies ahead." Before Malik could respond, the figure disappeared, leaving him shaken but oddly reassured. He returned to the village with renewed determination, but the cryptic warning lingered in his thoughts, a prelude to the storm yet to come. That night, Amani was visited by the spirits in her dreams. Their voices were harsher, more commanding than before. "The moment of betrayal approaches, and the fate of your people rests on your choice. To protect them, you must fulfill your destiny." Amani begged for clarity, tears streaming down her face. "How can love and betrayal coexist?" she cried. But the spirits offered no answers, only a reminder. The path has been set. When she awoke, Amani felt the weight of the prophecy more keenly than ever. Her connection with Malik had deepened beyond what she thought possible, but now it felt like a curse. She resolved to keep her distance from him, hoping that by doing so, she could alter the course of events. Yet deep down, she knew the spirit's demands were unyielding, and her choice was inevitable. The village council, fueled by fear and superstition, held another meeting to decide Malik's fate. This time, the demands were clear. Malik must leave or face banishment by force. Amani was summoned to the meeting and asked to speak on behalf of the spirits. She stood before the council, her heart pounding. "The spirits do not wish harm upon Malik," she said carefully, "but his presence is tied to events beyond our understanding." Her vague response only angered the elders, who accused her of being too close to him to be impartial. As tensions rose, Malik burst into the meeting, his frustration boiling over. "I have done nothing but offer my help and loyalty to this village," he exclaimed. The council dismissed him, but the confrontation left Amani shaken. She realized that the village's mistrust was not just about Malik, it was about her as well. Her role as seer was being questioned, and the cracks in her authority were beginning to show. The growing hostility in the village began to take its toll on Amani and Malik's relationship. Malik, hurt by the council's accusations and Amani's silence about the spirit's true intentions, grew distant. "Why won't you tell me the truth?" he asked one night, his voice filled with anguish. Amani looked away, unable to meet his gaze. "I'm trying to protect you," she whispered. "But from what?" Malik pressed. His frustration was palpable, and for the first time, Amani saw the strain their love was putting on him. "You can't protect me by keeping me in the dark," he said, his voice soft but firm. Amani wanted to explain, to tell him everything, but the prophecy's weight held her back. Their love, once a source of strength, now felt like a fragile thread, fraying under the pressure of the secrets between them. The spirits returned to Amani, this time with a vision that left her breathless. She saw herself standing before the council, accusing Malik of a crime he didn't commit. The vision shifted, showing Malik being led away in chains while the villagers cheered. Amani woke with a scream, her heart racing. The prophecy was unfolding and she was powerless to stop it. The next day, a theft was discovered in the village. A sacred artifact had gone missing from the shrine. Suspicion immediately fell on Malik, fueled by the council's mistrust. Amani's heart sank as she realized the spirit's plan was in motion. She could see the villagers' anger boiling over, and she knew that any attempt to defend Malik would only make things worse. With trembling hands, she prepared to face the council, knowing that her words could seal Malik's fate and fulfill the prophecy she had fought so hard to resist. The theft of the sacred artifact sent shockwaves through the village. Rumors spread like wildfire, and all eyes turned to Malik. He was always an outsider, some whispered. Others recalled his moments of frustration with the villagers and twisted them into evidence of guilt. Malik, unaware of the growing storm, went about his day, only to be summoned to the council abruptly. Amani stood in the shadows, her heart aching as she watched the scene unfold. The council confronted Malik, accusing him of the theft. "I have done no such thing," Malik protested, his voice steady despite the weight of the accusation. Amani remained silent, the spirit's warnings echoing in her mind. If she defended him now, she might avert his immediate punishment, but risk the wrath of the spirits and the safety of the village. Her silence was a betrayal in itself, and she hated the role destiny forced her to play. The council deliberated late into the night, with villagers demanding swift justice. Without concrete evidence, but pressured by the escalating fear and mistrust, the council ruled that Malik must leave the village or face imprisonment. Malik stood tall as the verdict was announced, his pride refusing to let him beg for mercy. "I have done nothing wrong," he said, locking eyes with Amani for a fleeting moment.